You're saying that the Conservatives are trying to divide.
Breathe in, breathe out, guys. It's a monster out there. It's a mess. These Canadian federal politics, I've been watching it very closely for a couple of years, trying to make this channel, learning so many things at once. When I started, I didn't know how to make a YouTube channel, let alone know about Canadian federal politics. But by now, it's starting to come together. This is some proof. Like, today is a special day for me. Guess the number. I'm not going to tell the truth about the answer on that one. But what we do here really is tell the truth through showing you the politics, not telling you what to think. You can make up your own mind. You're a smart Canadian. I know that. I trust that. But what I believe is that a lot of smart Canadians are being duped and don't watch frontline politics. And it's as simple as that. Like, they see liberal propaganda. They see it like all over the place. It's on the radio here. Like, what are you going to do? Anyhow, let's get into some videos. Guess the number in the chat room. Let's kick this off. We've got so many great videos to watch. I might interrupt here in a minute or two, but we'll just let the videos roll for the meantime. Guess the number in the chat room. That's it. Like, share, subscribe. Let's get right into this. We have so many videos to watch.
You're saying that the Conservatives are trying to divide you on this issue. Is it not your government that has divided your own caucus by bringing forward an MOU that clearly does not have the full support of your own party?
Like, as a party, we are united in wanting to make sure that we continue to build Canada, that we build it well, that we take into account climate change in the work that we do, and that we respect Indigenous rights holders. Our party is united on that. And so I won't accept that as a premise for that question. We are united.
You don't think the MOU is dividing your own caucus? You don't think there's divisions over that?
No.
So people can have issues with particular pieces, but we are supportive of the entire MOU.
You are supportive, but there are many of your other caucus members who are not supportive.
The caucus is supportive of the entire MOU. People, yes.
Mr. Hogan, was this a whip vote? Would you have wanted to vote in favor of the pipeline? Was this a whip vote for your caucus?
This was not a whipped vote for me. This is a very easy decision to vote no on. It is designed to divide.
Hey, I have a question. The front doors are locked here.
Yeah, what do you need?
I'm trying to get to the queer self-defense class.
Okay, around the corner.
So the south side of the building, is that?
Yeah.
Okay, and it said on the flyer, trans folks fight for free.
Yeah, you're trans.
I'm trans-indigenous.
You're what?
I'm trans-indigenous. My parents, bigoted doctor, assigned me white skin at birth, but I identify as a brown-skinned native.
Dude, get out of here.
Well, are you trans-native phobic?
No.
Well, then what's the problem?
Do you know how confusing this is to people and how you're making a mockery out of natives?
Well, that's ironic, don't you think?
No, we are protecting people here with self-defense.
And I want to participate.
No.
I'm a native. Trans natives are natives, and this is our land.
Dude, I'm calling the cops.
Don't misindigenate me. I am not a dude.
Get out of here.
Why are you being trans-native phobic right now?
Please leave.
No. This is my land, and you're trespassing. You're cis-American, so how about you leave?
I need you to leave the property now.
No. What are you going to do?
I'm calling the police.
You're going to call the police on me because I'm a trans-native man of color?
You're mocking people.
That's a hate crime.
No, what you're doing is a hate crime.
Call the police then. It's really sad you're being trans-native phobic right now.
Dude,
Folks, this individual is being trans-native phobic. I'm trying to get into a queer self-defense. Really sad. I hope you should be proud of yourself for being trans-native phobic.
You should be ashamed of what you're doing.
Really sad. Trans-natives are natives.
You need to leave.
Gang, what's up? Aaron, Canadian Looney. Like, share, subscribe, get notified. We cover Canadian federal politics here, mostly from Parliament, from the House Commons, from the scrums, legacy media even. But we're going to delve into some other videos for the pre-show today. We'll get back to committees before the question period starts. We always get to the question period on time. We have a great chat room. Try to engage in that. If you haven't tried it, you'll like it, I'm pretty sure. Anyhow, that's it. Let's get into the videos. These are off. The times in Canada are off the hook, certainly. Anyhow, try to take a guess at what special day it is for me. What number? I'm never going to tell. Anyways, take guesses in the chat room. Let's go. We've got so many videos to watch. Let's kick it off. We do get to question period right on time, and we're here every day for question period. Check out one of the other videos as well. Like, share, subscribe. Let's kick this off. Let's go. In Canadian federal politics, the Canucks are represented by two separate yet unequal groups. The globalists who sold out and the opposition trying to salvage a country. These are their stories.
All right, Andrew, thanks for doing that. We'll go back to Tamara.
Oh, we even have a liberal obstructionist with us right now.
Who's this guy? What do you do, sir?
John Paul Danko, MP for Hamilton West.
Okay, we got a liberal MP here. We got a live stream.
Explain why you don't think you should have the right to preach without fear of prosecution.
It's protected by the charter. You know that.
Then why did you pass the amendment? Why did you pass the amendment?
Okay, all right. So we got a liberal MP. No, join us. Stick around. You stepped into the live stream stage. You're welcome to. Okay. All right,
he's running away. He's learning from his prime minister.
We got a liberal MP who comes into the middle of our live stream, tries to interrupt it, and then walks away in the middle of the conversation. Yeah. Take note of that, folks. He wants to interrupt the live stream, but then when we say, come on board, join the debate, we want to have you part of the conversation, he walks away. This is exactly the liberal attitude towards speech. That's exactly what we expect. Any other liberals watching here, any other liberals want to join us, be my guest. Call me, send me an email. You can join the live stream if you want, and we'll actually have a conversation. But if you can't handle the heat, stay out of the kitchen, exactly.
Right? For Leduc Wetaskiwin.
Mr. Speaker, I don't know when the last time the honourable member was actually at committee. But Mr. Speaker, he does talk about, somehow he's talking about taking pot shots. I don't know how he defines a pot shot. When I point out that he ran an election where his leader promised an already devastating budget deficit of $62 billion. We're talking record level budget deficits. And then a few months later, they put forward a budget that is $78 billion budget deficit. $78 billion, that somehow that's a pot shot. I asked him to explain how they can justify 100% of Via Rail executives getting bonuses, and he calls that a pot shot. That's a fair question in a democratic society. It's a fair question for this time, and he's got 1 minute. I hope he'll actually answer this question this time. Thank you.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, when I was talking about the pot shots, I was reflecting on the question in which the member had asked and the way in which the Conservatives continue to downplay Canada as a nation. And then you just take a look in terms of the questions that he just finished saying there. He again takes shots in regards to the Prime Minister because he says, well, the deficit. But what he doesn't tell you, Mr. Speaker, is that look at Canada as a nation, and we are number one in terms of the lowest net debt-to-debt ratio in the G7, the lowest. We're number 2 on the deficit. And if you compare who had the worst deficit, just look at your leader of the Conservative Party on an inflation basis, the 2009 budget. But you see, Mr. Speaker, that's what I mean. They tell half. I won't say the next word that follows it. At the end of the day, Mr. Speaker, I think there's a lot that we can be grateful here in Canada
Trombley, you're the best. You don't need to do that.
Honourable member for St.
I just like that you hang out here.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister is a total and complete hypocrite. During the recent federal election campaign, he presented himself as Captain Canada. He wrapped himself around the Canadian flag with his elbows up. He wove a story of having resigned as chair of the multi-billion-dollar investment firm Brookfield to come to Canada's rescue at a time of crisis. Of course, this self-serving narrative is pure fiction, because what the Prime Minister didn't tell Canadians was that as chair of Brookfield, he played a key role in helping Brookfield avoid paying billions of dollars in taxes in Canada through Brookfield's shady use of offshore tax havens. In fact, the Prime Minister has the dubious distinction of being chair of Canada's biggest corporate tax dodger. Analysis reveals that of Canada's 123 largest corporations, there is no bigger tax dodger than Brookfield. Brookfield managed to avoid paying a staggering $6.5 billion of taxes in Canada in only 5 years. And I want to emphasize that the Prime Minister was not a bystander to Brookfield's tax dodging. He was an architect, including setting up and registering 3 multi-billion-dollar investment funds in Bermuda and the Cayman Islands, which of course are notorious offshore tax havens. And not only that, the Prime Minister stands to profit from one of these funds that he registered in Bermuda in the way of future bonus pay. In short, this is a Prime Minister who stands to make tens of millions of dollars as a direct result of his tax dodging scheme. So much for Captain Canada, so much for Mr. Elbows Up. And meanwhile, this Prime Minister has the audacity to tell Canadians that they need to sacrifice more. Well, I've got news for this arrogant and out-of-touch Prime Minister. Millions of Canadians get up every day, they work hard, they play by the rules, and yes, they pay their taxes in Canada. Why won't he? He has a responsibility to do so, and in the meantime, he has a responsibility to come clean and tell Canadians how much he has in offshore tax havens.
Parliamentary Secretary.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, I do have a lot to say on this particular issue, but let's be very clear at the onset. It's important to recognize when you talk about, ethical standards, if I can put it that way, Canada has some of the, or if not the, most stringent rules in place that were in place now for quite a while. And when you think of the current Prime Minister, look at it from this perspective. He has not only met, but he's exceeded his requirements under those ethics guidelines, and he will continue to do so, Mr. Speaker. Now, having said that, let's do a bit of a reflection in terms of what it is that the Conservative Party focused so much of its attention on. What I've always said is character assassination. And we saw a great demonstration of that just now, Mr. Speaker. Brookfield's, what is it, $200 billion company? I suspect that it's got an investment in a lot of things. And at the end of the day, Mr. Speaker, some of the investors sit in the Conservative caucus. Yes. Now, they might have sold off since they've been called out on it, like the deputy leader of the Conservative caucus. There's a number of the Conservatives that actually have investments in Brookfield, Mr. Speaker. Now, I'm wondering, if we were to start to say, well, what about this and that and this and this and that, and put on the tin hats, I'm sure we could come up with some pretty mischievous behavior coming from the Conservative Party of Canada. There's a whole pile of them, Mr. Speaker, that have questionable ethics in terms of conflict potential that's out there. But, Mr. Speaker, in fairness, I am not a conservative. I am not a conspiracy theorist believing that everything is a conspiracy in order to try to justify some sort of a statement when we know full well that the Prime Minister has done everything that is required of him, and he's actually exceeded that. But it doesn't stop the Conservatives, because they know that they can score some political cheap shots that are unjustified, completely unfounded, but by spreading it, that they believe that they can convince people that there's some sort of real corruption that's there that's not. And that's what we see coming from the Conservative Party when I talk about character assassination. And to the Prime Minister's credit, He has not allowed that to be a distraction as he continues to build and work towards building Canada strong, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister, as this government, is focused in terms of what we can do in order to enhance the lives of Canadians in every region. And a part of that agenda, Mr. Speaker, is one of the reasons why we have a Prime Minister that has been doing a great deal of traveling, ensuring that we can break down and open up doors so that we can have more countries to have trade with, Mr. Speaker. Literally billions of dollars of potential commitments coming in, excuse me, as a direct result of the Prime Minister's actions. Not to mention the budget and how it is that the budget's there to support things like our military, infrastructure, Canadians as a whole in terms of programs. These are all things that are positive, that are happening. Primarily because no matter how focused the Conservatives are on themselves, Mr. Speaker, and wanting to have and participate in character assassination of the Prime Minister has resisted that and focused on serving Canadians, Mr. Speaker. And that is something in which I believe he is going to continue to do because we have a very straightforward goal. And that is to build Canada strong, to build Canada to become the strongest nation of the G7, Mr. Speaker, to provide hope for Canadians.
The honourable member for St. Albert Sturgeon River.
Mr. Speaker, it is a fact that the Prime Minister set up 3 multi-billion-dollar investment funds in Bermuda and the Cayman Islands, and it's a fact that he stands to make tens of millions of dollars in future bonus pay from one of those funds. Those are facts, not a conspiracy theory, as the member across the way suggested, but it's typical of these Liberals who have nothing but contempt for the truth, nothing but contempt for accountability, and nothing but contempt for transparency. And they have contempt for taxpayers who work hard and pay their taxes in Canada. Meanwhile, we have a Prime Minister who is a tax dodger. Why won't the Prime Minister simply come clean and tell Canadians exactly how much he has in offshore tax havens? Why won't he do that?
Parliamentary Secretary.
Yes, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister is someone that was appointed by Stephen Harper to become the Governor of the Bank of Canada. He was appointed in England to become the Governor of the Bank of England. He's been a successful business person within the Canadian economy for many years. He has an incredible track record. That's something in which we should be encouraging, to have successful individuals like the Prime Minister to become parliamentarians, to become leaders, to provide their visions. That's something we should be encouraging, not trying to tear apart because of, well, character assassination, as I've said it, Mr. Speaker. I don't think it's called for. I really and truly don't. As I say, we have rules. Those rules are being followed, and the Prime Minister will continue to be focused on Canadians.
I know you're getting ready for the holidays. I know you're ready to tap out of politics. I know it's exhausting, but I need you to pay attention to what's about to happen. Tuesday, December 9th, there will be an Opposition Day vote in the House of Commons. This is when the Conservatives put forward a motion and then the House votes on it. Now, you see, the silver lining of Donald Trump, whether you like him or hate him, is that he has pushed us to recognize that we need to develop our resources, right? We have amazing minerals, oil, gas, all the things the world needs and wants, and guess who has it? Ding, 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 Canada! There's a little problem though. So Mark Carney ran on this campaign, remember? He's the best negotiator. Elbows up, rah, rah, rah. Yeah. How are those negotiations going? Real bad, Mr. Carney. So he's figured out that everybody's like, Mr. Carney, we need to develop our resources. There's a premier in Alberta named Danielle Smith. She knows how to get things done. And it's in your best interest to work with her because Alberta is really rich and you've been a real jackass to Alberta for a lot of years. So it's best for you to work with them. Mark Carney and the Liberals have a little comms meeting. They're like, yeah, let's sign an MOU. Now, an MOU is kind of like this piece of paper. It's that, a piece of paper. It's a memorandum of understanding. It's not a contract. It's not legally binding. It's a memorandum of understanding. So Mark Carney shakes hands, does a photo op, and Danielle Smith, she's a sharp one, folks. She calls Mark Carney's bluff and says, yeah, you'll sign this MOU. You're going to allow us to build a pipeline all the way out west. But here's the kicker, guys. Here's the kicker. He doesn't believe in pipelines. He doesn't believe in oil and gas. His liberal BC members of parliament don't believe in pipelines. His environment minister, former environment minister, who was arrested, doesn't believe in pipelines so much that he resigned from cabinet. Remember when the media made a huge deal because Conservative MP Chris D'Entremont crossed the floor? Stephen Guilbeault, a minister, resigned over this MOU. Have you heard anything in the media about that? Crickets, crickets. Yeah, it's no big deal. Nothing to see here. Okay, so stay with me. So the opposition day motion from the Conservatives takes the Liberal writing right out of their very own MOU and says, do you vote in favor of this? Why would the Conservatives want Mark Carney and the Liberals to vote on their own writing? This is their own memorandum of understanding. Why wouldn't they all just vote in favor of it? Because it's going to expose the hypocrites that they are. That they lied to win. They don't believe in pipelines. They do not want to develop our oil and gas and our resources. No. They want to make you poor and dependent. That is their end goal. They want you to drive electric cars, whether you want to or not. They don't want to give you a choice. They're going to tell you what to do, how to do it, when to do it, because that is the Liberal way. So mark my words, friends, watch tomorrow how that Liberal caucus votes. And if they do not stand united, it is exactly what the Conservatives had said from day one. They say one thing and do another. They do a photo op and then behind closed doors do the exact opposite. It is not happenstance, my friends, that we are in this economic decay, a social decay, a tariff war where things are just getting worse and worse by the day. This is Liberal ideology, it is Liberal policy, and it is not working, and it is time for you to see that. And we welcome you here on the Conservative side. We welcome you. The Liberals are nothing what they say they are. They pander and tell you one thing to your face and do the complete opposite when it's time to implement it.
On July 20th, 1871, British Columbia became the 6th province to sign on to the audacious vision that was Canada as laid out by the Fathers of Confederation, a vision that was as bold as it was courageous, to create a new nation, one that would stretch from the Atlantic to the Pacific, through the Rockies, across the prairies, and over the Canadian Shield, to unite these small, disparate, and insignificant colonies of what was then British North America, and what was perhaps the greatest nation-building project the world had ever seen. Over a century and a half later, much of our prosperity, identity, and independence we owe to them and those who followed in their footsteps. They built and defended this country from the ground up. From the National Railway through 2 world wars, their determination and perseverance shaped not only the land around them, but those who called it home. What has happened to that tenacity, to that fortitude, that resolve, the ability to get things done? Where are our leaders, our statesmen for a new century? Those who could live up to the lines of Canadian history, to Laurier, to Macdonald, to W.A.C. Bennett? Where are the leaders who can rediscover that boldness and audacity that built this country and couple it with a vision as befitting as a nation as vast and bursting with potential as our own? And that vision, Madam Speaker, starts with getting back to the basics, with actually building things. In the late 1800s, Canada was a small country, divided by language and surrounded by a much larger and much more powerful neighbor to the south. Yet, in that historical context, we completed what many consider to be one of the great political and engineering feats of the time, the Canadian Pacific Railway. Today, the Liberal government can't even bring themselves to openly support a pipeline, content instead to sign vague, indeterminate pieces of paper promising that one day to maybe consider building a pipeline to the Pacific. And the consequences to this lack of vision and follow-through are very real. Today, our lack of market access forces us to sell our oil, our #1 export, at a massive discount to the United States, a reality that has cost us tens of thousands of jobs and $70 million each day, or $25 billion every single year. At a time of predatory and hostile U.S. trade action that is deliberately attempting to destroy our forestry, steel, aluminum, and automotive sectors, we are essentially giving our oil to the Americans on the cheap, because this Liberal government doesn't have the political fortitude to get a Canadian pipeline built. A pipeline that would secure our economic sovereignty, energy independence, and finally give us the leverage that we need over the United States. But you know, Madam Speaker, this isn't really a new issue. Back when McDonald was first proposing the Canadian Pacific Railway, an undertaking, as I mentioned, many thought could not be done, there were loud voices, mainly in the Liberal Party at the time, that demanded that east-west railway be built through the much easier terrain of the United States. They argued it would have been politically easier, it would have been undoubtedly more affordable, and on those 2 points they were right. But it would have come at the expense of Canadian sovereignty and left us a mere dependency, a colony of the Americans. Fortunately, our leaders from that era had the foresight and the passionate devotion to our national interest to see through the railway that we now call the ribbon of steel on an all-Canadian route. Unfortunately, the Liberal government from today has essentially accomplished the exact opposite and is moving us in the opposite direction. Think about how ridiculous this is. Canada has the third largest reserves of oil on the entire planet, yet we are still importing oil from repressive dictatorial regimes like Saudi Arabia. Meanwhile, as we've allowed our Canadian oil industry to atrophy, American oil output has grown by more than 50%. What are we doing? We have the oil, we have the know-how, we have the skill and determination of the Canadian people, I can guarantee you that. All we're missing are the politicians with the courage and vision to get the job done. And to be clear, and I think this is an important point, the world needs more energy, it needs it today, and is going to continue to needing it for decades to come. In fact, the International Energy Agency predicts that global energy demand will continue to grow well past 2050, and more than a quarter of that total energy demand will continue to come in the form of oil. The problem, Madam Speaker, is that increase in demand is concentrated in Asian markets, markets that without pipelines, Canada has little to no access to. Today, over 90% of our country's oil exports are sold to one country, the United States. And make no mistake, if we don't get these pipelines built, if Canadian oil stays in the ground, which, by the way, I think is the true objective of at least some members of the Liberal caucus, those investment dollars will go elsewhere. Those jobs will go elsewhere. They will go to brutal, repressive regimes like Venezuela and Iran, funding the priorities of their governments, like repressing peaceful dissent and exporting terrorism and hard drugs, instead of supporting the priorities of our government, like healthcare, education, roads, and supporting our brave men and women in uniform. And here's the truth. No one does environmental stewardship and safety better than Canada or better than Canadians, and as long as the world needs and demands oil, as much of it as possible should come from right here in Canada. But to do that, we do need pipelines. Unfortunately, instead of showing leadership on this file, instead of following in the nation-building footsteps of those who built this country, the Liberal government has done the exact opposite, axing the Northern Gateway Pipeline, killing Energy East, introducing that bill known as the No More Pipelines Bill, Bill C-69, the tanker ban, C-48, and the industrial carbon tax, a suite of policies compiled together by design for one purpose: to kill Canada's oil and gas industry and to leave our most valuable resource, our most valuable asset, our most valuable commodity in the ground. Let's just take the tanker ban as one example. Why is it that 24.4 million tons of foreign oil are allowed to transit Canada's east coast, including down the St. Lawrence River in Quebec, and yet on BC's north coast, it is banned? There is no scientific evidence whatsoever to suggest tanker traffic in northwestern BC presents a greater risk to the environment than anywhere else. In fact, because there's a lack of maritime traffic in general, the exact opposite is true. And here's the kicker. There's already tankers off of BC's coast. 4 tankers each day filled to the brim with American oil depart Alaska, heading south alongside the very waters where Canadian tanker traffic carrying Canadian oil are currently banned. It continues a trend of this government pursuing ideological policies and virtue signaling to this group or that over straightforward, common sense results. But there is good news, Madam Speaker. Canadians are seeing through the spin. 67% of British Columbians in recent polling believe new pipelines are important to Canada's economic future, and 54% are confident pipelines can be built while protecting the environment, and they are the most environmentally friendly and sensitive ways to transport this commodity. And yet we have a BC Premier who says the pipeline will, quote, never be built, and a Prime Minister who has been unwilling to assert the nation-building and constitutional role of the federal government to get this project done. And when it comes to building this pipeline, a majority of British Columbians agree, a majority of Canadians agree, but most importantly, Madam Speaker, it is in the essential national interests of our country. But the truth is that the silver lining to this challenge lies in the solution. It's that we don't actually need the government to really step up in any particular way. We just need the government to get out of the way and give this country back to those who built it and continue to build it, the people. And that is why I urge every member of this House, regardless of their province, their party, their ideology, to vote with us, to vote for Canadian workers, vote for Canadian prosperity, vote for economic sovereignty and energy independence and building things, including pipelines, in this country once again. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Questions and comments. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Energy and Natural Resources.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The member made comments about the differential. I agree it's important to manage the differential between WTI and WCS, or presumably between Brent and WCS, given he's talking about a pipeline to the West Coast. Of course, the differential is driven by quality differences, the sulfur content and the gravity of it, as well as transportation costs. I wonder if the member could explain to me what he thinks would be an appropriate differential, either to WTI or Brent, as he sees fit.
Honourable Member for North Island, Poilievre.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I thank my honourable colleague for the question. I think what it comes down to is we should be getting the top price for Canadian oil that's possible. We're only going to get that top price if we have access to world markets. If we allow ourselves to be backed into the corner, for the Americans to have ultimate leverage over our #1 export, we're not going to be able to get that top price. That is why we need to get pipelines built. We need to get a pipeline built to the Pacific and finally create more Canadian jobs, more Canadian revenues, and start building things in this country once again.
Questions and comments. The Honourable Member for Saskatoon South. Yes, South.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I want to thank the Honourable Member from BC. Going back into history, how we built this country. I'm not sure we can build the country anymore. Billions of dollars have been lost because of these Liberal policies. As he mentioned, C-69, C-48. In my province, we've got uranium mines ready to go, but because of these policies, years in the waiting. To the Honourable Member from British Columbia, his thoughts. Will this pipeline ever get built with this current government in place?
The Honourable Member for North Island, Poilievre.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I thank my honourable colleague for the question. I mean, I can't predict the future. But I'll tell you one thing, it needs to be built. It needs to be built for the national interest of this country. We cannot continue to be an economic dependency of the United States, an economic colony of the United States. We need to take control of our own future and start building things again, whether it's mines in Saskatchewan, whether it's pipelines in BC, whether it's nuclear power plants in Ontario. We need to get building again in this country. And unfortunately, I think only with the new Conservative government will that actually get done.
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Prime Minister.
Speaker, I'd like to ask my honourable colleague opposite what elements of the MOU that Premier Danielle Smith and the government have committed to, does he not support? Because it is very clear as he reads the MOU that we are willing to support a pipeline to Tidewater in the Pacific. We believe it has to be a private proponent, that we have Indigenous cooperation, obviously buy-in and dialogue with British Columbia. But what elements of the MOU does he not support? Because that's why the Conservative Party hasn't actually put this before the House today, because they as a party can't agree on certain elements. Which element does he not agree with in that MOU that Premier Danielle Smith signed on herself?
Honourable Member for North Island Poilievre.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I thank my honourable colleague for the question. Look, I think the point is that the Liberals don't understand is we shouldn't even need an MOU in this country to build things. There was a private proponent that proposed a pipeline. They got that project approved by the National Energy Board that met all the requisite requirements and then was killed for political reasons by the Liberal government. Yeah. So you shouldn't need some special to go up and on bended knee to the Prime Minister to beg for your project to get built. We're supposed to be a first world country, not a banana republic. We set the highest environmental standards in the world. If you meet them, you should be allowed to build your project, whether it's a mine, whether it's a pipeline, whether it's a new housing development. We need to get things done.
Hear, hear. Questions and comments. The Honourable Member for Sandwich Gulf Islands.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and the Honourable Member for, I believe it's North Island, Poilievre. I'm wondering if Conservatives who've been debating this motion today remember the Conservative Party platform from 2011 that would have prohibited any pipeline to the northern BC coast to ship any diluted bitumen to China. The Conservative Party policy at that time was that we should not ship diluted bitumen to any country with lower environmental standards for our refineries. I'm just wondering if anyone remembers that.
Well, Member for North Island Poilievre.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I thank my honourable colleague for the question. I think I was 21 at the time, if I'm doing the math correctly, so I'm not familiar with all the ins and outs of what was or wasn't in the platform back in 2011. What I can tell you is that we support a pipeline. We support getting top dollar for Canada's #1 export, to expanding our trade markets, to becoming less dependent on the United States, and actually getting things done and following the science and the evidence and not making political decisions that kill individual projects.
There. Good answer.
Assuming debate, the Honourable.
Breaking news out of Ottawa on an update on the Liberals' deal to amend their hate speech bill, or their thought crime bill, Bill C9, to include an amendment which would essentially criminalize certain aspects of religious belief. Now, some of you have been following this when news of this first broke last week. I'm going to break down what just happened today, what's going to happen in the Justice Committee later today. But you need to, the thing that you need to know is that the Liberals have just announced, there was some question on whether or not they would support this amendment, but this is breaking news out of Ottawa. The Liberals to support block move to remove religious exemption from hate speech laws on Tuesday. So I'm going to break this down for you. I need you to do two things for me, because we need to get this word out. You're not seeing this across mainstream media. I need you to share this video. Many of you have faith leaders, friends in faith communities that have been following this issue very closely. Please share this video. And the other thing I need you to do is, because I'm trying to write to you, keep in touch with you on everything that's happening here in Ottawa as it happens, there's a link in the comments. It lets me directly communicate with you. If you just click on that, it takes you to my Substack where I write to you. It goes straight to your inbox, and it allows me to get around the Liberals' censorship bills and some of their news bans that they put in place for social media. So just take a couple minutes to share this video, to click on that link and click subscribe, because this is a rapidly evolving story. But let me break it down for you on what's happening right now. So this is just announced moments ago. This is an article from the National Post. So there was some speculation after all of the pressure that faith groups across the country have put on the Liberal government as to whether or not they would actually support this amendment which would essentially criminalize certain types of religious belief. It now appears that they are going to go forward with this. So the Liberal government is in fact proceeding with an attempt to criminalize certain types of religious belief, put restrictions on religious speech. This is a draconian law. I can't even believe this is happening in Canada. But the thing that you need to know if you're following this story is that they are proceeding with it. So how are they proceeding with it? So major props to my colleague Andrew Lawton, Member of Parliament with the Conservative Party of Canada, who's been sort of leading our caucus charge on this issue. If you follow his feed, you'll see that he had been trying to figure out what they were doing at the Justice Committee. The Liberals, they canceled the meeting, then they put it back on, and they were canceling it and extending it and whatnot. The meeting is on today at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And it's our understanding that they are going to attempt to pass this amendment, which would criminalize religious belief. We've had faith groups from across the spectrum put forward letters condemning this, including some Catholic bishops. So this is, the Liberals are going to attempt to do this today. I want to assure you that Conservatives are going to fight this tooth and nail. This is the antithesis of what being Canadian means. If we want to support Canada's pluralism, the freedom to worship is a fundamental freedom, and the Liberals are trying to erode that. And guys, this is not a joke. We know that the Liberals, with their previous censorship bills, Bill C-11, Bill C-18, those have resulted in a whole bunch of censorship measures and chill on speech in Canada, including the fact, depending on what platform you're watching this, you might not see it. There's certain types of news bans and censorship that happens in Canada because of these bills. So the Liberals have, over the years, put in place, and then Bill C-63 in the last Parliament, where they attempted to take censorship even farther. Now with this bill and this amendment, the Bloc and the NDP and the Liberals are working together to essentially criminalize certain types of religious belief and thought. So this is a huge chill on Canadian civil liberties. It has been very encouraging to see people from across the political spectrum band together to say this is wrong. And folks, what I need you to do today is to continue that fight. I need you to share this video, get this word out to as many people as you can. It doesn't matter how you vote. This is not the way in Canada. Like putting extreme restrictions on freedom of religious belief is just not the way. So you need to get this word out. And then also, if you want to follow along this afternoon, the Justice Committee will start at 3:30 Eastern. There'll be many people coming to you live on that, but you can follow along with that. And then, as I said, the link that's in the comments, if you click subscribe, it's free. It allows me to directly communicate with you on what's happening in some of these issues. But the key thing to get the word out on is that the Liberals have announced that they are going to proceed with this, in spite of outcries from faith groups across the country. We need to keep the pressure up. We know that this is an issue within the Liberal caucus. We're seeing division within the Liberal caucus. And we just need to put the pressure on more so that Mark Carney, who is behind this, actually decides to listen. Now, that's the thing. Like, Mark Carney's trying to stay out of this, but he's the one who signs off, right, on this being accepted or not. So we need to put the pressure on Mark Carney. Keep it up. It's been very encouraging. It helps us fight, knowing that many of you, and again, people who would maybe never even vote Conservative, have decided to get behind us because this is so anti-Canadian. So share this video. We are going to fight this tooth and nail. I guarantee you this is something that Conservatives are just absolutely, I'm just so encouraged to see my colleagues. We're all working together right now to make sure that we are doing everything possible to stop this. Every procedural trick, every ounce of filibuster, anything that we can possibly do, we will fight this, but we need your help. Get the word out. That's the number one thing that you can do. Activate your faith. If you're in a faith community, make sure that your faith leaders know what's happening. Get them to...
Mr. Chair, thank you to the witnesses. It's my understanding that in terms of the timeline for completion, that is 2031, with the full opening scheduled for 2032. Is that still on track?
Yes, thank you for the question, Mr. Chair. I am pleased to report that your data points are accurate. Our intention is to complete substantial construction in the 2031 time frame, and based on previous lessons learned with other projects, our intent is to give approximately 12 years of commissioning to the parliamentary administration so they can fire the systems of the building up, make sure everything's working in the building. Sorry, did I say years? Oh, sorry, 12 months. 12 months, I apologize, months, to commission the building with an opening of 2032. Thank you.
Just sorry to interrupt. The mics are very strong, so if you can sit back, just for our interpreters, you don't have to lean into them. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. It's probably to Ms. Garrett my next question. With respect to the sourcing of material, you said that 65% of the steel has been sourced from Canada. Where is the other 35% being sourced from?
The other 35% is being sourced from, so let me clarify the question, sir, back up. At this point, 65% is Canadian. We have not bought all the steel for the job, so we're still continuing to buy steel in support of the design process that's now come to completion. We've been able, no, I'm going to answer your question. Some of the steel has been sourced from the U.S., some of the steel has been sourced from further abroad, Europe or even Asia. But at this point, I am happy to report that we've done some specific work with the steel industry, actually. Sorry, still too close? I don't get this at my other committee appearances, so I'm going to, is this good?
Your P's are popping into the mic, so you're there. You're very clear, and we can hear you if just
okay,
sit normally,
so
and you're okay. Excellent.
Okay.
Thank you. Sorry.
All right. So what we've done right now is we've done when the tariff situation arrived, we did some great work with our construction manager, which is a joint venture of PCL and Ellis Dawn, as well as the steel industry, including members of the Canadian manufacturing industry.
No, and I appreciate that, and I'll give you some time to maybe elaborate on some of those points, but I just want to be clear that to date, 65% has been sourced from Canada in terms of steel. How much has been sourced from the U.S. to date?
At this point on the project as it stands today, 45%, but that will move quite dramatically to close to 100% by the time we bought all 100% Canadian purchased steel and manufactured steel by the time we're done the project.
Sorry, just so I'm hearing you correctly, to date, 45% of the steel has been sourced from the United States to date?
Sourced from other countries, including the U.S. and Europe and Asia.
Okay, so that, I guess it follows, therefore, that we have seen the imposition of counter tariffs on steel products that came into effect on March 13th of this year, I believe. What has been the impact in terms of increased costs for sourcing of steel in light of those counter tariff measures?
So in full transparency, and what we need to understand here is we're still in the process of buying steel for the job. So the only steel that you see is the steel that we have on site and the steel that we've done for our temporary reinforcement. We are in the process of purchasing steel for the vast majority of the job, which is why we believe we're going to be very much close to upwards of 100% steel, Canadian steel, for this particular job by the time we're all done.
And I appreciate that the move is towards Canadian, but there have been counter tariffs imposed, and I'm just trying to get an understanding of what impact those counter tariff measures have had on overall costs.
So right now, as it relates to steel, we do expect to pay premiums on the steel, and we've been transparent about that publicly.
Premiums be?
Do I get to explain what they're associated with before I give you the number on it?
Well, I'd like a number.
Okay. So right now at this point, we're tracking around a $6 million premium on a multi-billion-dollar program. The rationale for that is because what we're doing is we're taking Canadian steel products and using innovation, and this is a new manufacturing methodology that has been brought to light since we started this approach and investigating what we could do to Canadianize the steel production. We're able to take Canadian product and weld it together using Canadian manufacturers. So the incremental cost is actually providing jobs for Canadians and incremental manufacturing capabilities in terms of welding those steel capabilities together.
Thank you so much. Pram for 5 minutes, please.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Thank you to all the witnesses for joining us today. The provincial legislative building of Saskatchewan recently underwent a pretty major rehabilitation project. And I was a bit surprised to see on page 6 of the slide in the infographic about Buy Canadian, where it says, 95% of the 400 companies working on the project representing just about every province except Saskatchewan. So I was wondering how that one fell through the cracks. What happened with the potential Saskatchewan suppliers, and why did they not make the grade, so to speak?
So I'll take that question, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the opportunity. So I will say, do not despair. There is lots of time left in this job. Our goal on this program is to have every province and territory represented in this project. To date, we've only bought out the job as far as the structural. I'd have to go back and understand if we had any companies from Saskatchewan through our construction manager that bid and did not make it through a bidding process. All of our processes are bid competitively through our construction manager, but there is lots more work to come, and we're hoping that we can get the word out and have bidders and companies come from across the country to work on this important program.
Okay, and on that note, with the 65% Canadian source steel alluded to on page 6, I was wondering if the project has any communications with Interpro Pipe and Steel of Regina. They're a major steel manufacturer in Saskatchewan, and if we are sourcing some steel from the United States and paying tariffs on top of it, I am sure there are many steel workers in Regina who would be very appreciative of the opportunity to work on such an exciting project. Can anyone comment on whether those communications have taken place?
The company is not ringing a bell to me personally. I will go back and check, but we have had on this particular program, we've had many engagements with the steel manufacturing industry. They could have been part of those engagements, but let me take that back, and we're happy to provide that answer back. And we're also happy to make any connections to these companies to our construction manager so that they better understand their capabilities and are prepared to come and bid on our jobs.
Okay, very good. You'll be hearing from me for sure. So, I'd also like. I should clarify, I was not on the tour today, but I did do the tour a few weeks ago. It looks like a very exciting and fascinating project. I was particularly interested in some of the reinforcements that were being made to protect the structure from earthquakes and seismic activities. And I understand in 2010 there was a significant earthquake in the Ottawa area that reached 5 on the Richter scale. I'm wondering how powerful an earthquake can the structure withstand once the project is complete? And if someone could comment on that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for the question. So I can happily talk about the structural reinforcement. Given that there are structural elements of it, the actual number that we're designing to, I'd like to provide to the committee offline because there's a security related element to it. But let me just say that surprisingly, Ottawa is in the second highest seismic zone of the country, and code requirements are very strict. So we've gone through a deliberate exercise, and it was early days in the program where we decided, because of this iconic heritage building, we had 2 choices to make. Did we actually strengthen the building from the top so that it could withstand shaking of the type of magnitude, and code identifies the type of magnitude earthquake that we're required to design to, and what the building after that event must be survivable to. That's the information we can provide offline to the meeting. But we went through a very deliberate exercise, and we chose a base isolation methodology. It's new to the Ottawa area, but not a new innovation. It's used on the West Coast and in the Pacific Rim in their earthquake zones. The reason why we pursued that is that those base isolation will absorb the shock, We don't have to stiffen the building as much above so that we were protecting the heritage spaces. If we had chosen to stiffen the building to withstand the shock, it would have created catastrophic impact to the high heritage spaces in the building.
Okay, and Mr. Chair, do I have time for a quick question for Mr. Kimmich so you can cut him off? That might work well.
You have 5 seconds
okay,
that you're eating into.
Mr. Kimmich, do you have any comments?
Under earthquake-proofing, Chair?
Specifically, if it's the seismic activity from question period will be withstood from the...
As I tell other chair occupants, we are merely victims of all of your behaviors.
Thank you so much. Mr. Jackson, 5 minutes, please.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to the witnesses. Deputy Speaker, nice to see you, and it was a pleasure, the tour this morning. I mentioned to a few of you that I was an MLA in the Manitoba Legislature, and so we have our renovation project on the foundations of our building going on as well. So quite interesting to compare the differences between building or doing foundation work along the Assiniboine and Red Rivers in Manitoba compared to the rock and banks of the Ottawa River. Very different projects with different problems. But my first question is actually about some of the heritage pieces that you talked about. You said there are 50 Pearson rooms. Is that correct? Would you be able to table a list of what those 50 are? I'd just be very curious. Like, I didn't realize that there was that many.
Yes, we can table that.
Okay.
We have that.
Thank you very much. The upper floors, I know I asked a few of these questions already, but I just want to make sure they're on the record. I had heard, you know, as rumors go on Parliament Hill, that the upper floors of the building would perhaps end up reflecting more of the hallways of West Block, as in drywall and painting and that type of thing in the hallways and offices. So I'd just like a clear understanding of whether they're going to look similar, any part of the building is going to look like West Block, or whether it will all return to the solid stone walls that it looked like in the past.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for the question. Let me assure you that the building on the upper floors will look exactly like it did before the building closed. I think it's important to point out to this committee that West Block and Center Block were two different buildings at various start states before they completed their rehabilitation processes. West Block, unfortunately, in the 50s timeframe, had gone through an interim rehabilitation that had gutted all of the heritage features on the interior of the building. That's why the interior of West Block looks very different than the Center Block. We have carefully, for the Center Block, taken every stone off, carefully, tagged it. We know where it came from, and we are putting that back into the building where it came from. So you should not be able to discern the upper floors pre-closure to the building's reopening.
Okay, thank you. And as a proud Manitoban, I'd be remiss to ask if the status of all of that stone, and if you've had to source any new Tyndall stone to replace stuff that was beyond repair from Manitoba, where it originally came from.
I am proud to say that when you walk through the building, a lot of the interior stone is Manitoba Tyndall stone, and when we do have to source it, we source it from Manitoba.
Okay, very good. In terms of the steel that's gone into the building, there's been a lot of questions about that. I think I asked one of the individuals, and I don't see him here, but if the metric on the amount of steel that has gone into reinforcing the foundation of the building. I don't know whether it was 200,000 metric tons of steel, or it was an astronomical figure, but I do think it would be important for the committee to have that information if that could be provided.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for the question. We were able to get that answer for you offline, and unless I'm mistaken, we'll clarify I've made a mistake, but I believe going from memory of what I was told when we were walking the site, it's 2,000 tons, metric tons.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Van Popte for 5 minutes, please.
Good, thank you. Thank you to the witnesses for being here and sharing your important information with us. And thank you for the tour. It was very enlightening and cold. I have a question for the person who is responsible for these slides that were circulated to us. I don't know who, okay. Ms. Garrett then. So I started reading this yesterday and I got hung up at the very first bullet, second bullet, long-term vision and plan. $5.9 billion invested to date, creating more than 89,000 jobs. And that didn't seem credible to me. I don't know if that's a typing mistake, 89,000 jobs, particularly since today on the tour, and again, reiterated at this meeting, we hear that there are 700 people working on site, going to be doubled to 1,500. And if we multiply that by 10, that's 15,000 person years, whatever you call that. Long ways from 89,000. So perhaps you could explain how you came to that number. Or if it's just confusing, maybe then refine it or correct it.
It's not confusing. I stand by the number. So thank you, Mr. Chair, for the question. So I think it's important as context before I answer the question to remind this committee that the long-term vision and plan has been in place for a couple of decades. Like the long-term vision and plan started in 2001, was last updated in 2006, and we've just recently gone through an update. So this is a multi-decade strategy to modernize Canada's parliamentary precinct, and we track those numbers from the capital investments. So West Block, as an example, is included in that number. The rehabilitation of the Senate of Canada building. For PSPC to calculate those numbers, we use a Finance Canada and industry standard approach of 15,000 person years per billion. And that's how we came up with that number, and we would happily provide the breakdown of the details to the committee. And so I would say Center Block itself, in terms of those calculations, which are accepted by finance and industry practice, will create another 70,000 jobs, person years and jobs.
So what is the total cost of the project, the whole thing from start to finish? Not like Center Block, I take it is $5.9 billion, but the whole project, which is going to create 89,000 jobs, what is the total cost of that project?
So I don't have the total cost of the project, because as I can give you what the numbers that have contributed to the 89,000 to date to provide the context. As I indicated, this is a multi-decade strategy. The 2006 strategies, the rehabilitation of Center Block and the Parliament Welcome Centre, was the pinnacle project of that strategy. Now, the 2025 long-term vision and plan update is all about a campus, those 50% of parliamentarians that will be on the south side of Wellington, and building the physical infrastructure like tunnels, material handling, and other capital program. The reason why I say I don't know the total cost is we're still not done when we get that infrastructure completed. We're at 11 buildings renovated to date. We will continue to add to that number, but as an example, the Confederation building, which some of you may have offices in, is in desperate need of rehabilitation. It will not go under rehabilitation until the mid-2030s timeframe. It is our next project in planning. I cannot provide you an estimate for that number because I don't know what its scope or cost is going to be at this time. So I'm happy to provide a breakdown of the investments to date, what they contributed to, and the jobs created. And I'm not trying to, get away from answering a question. It's a rolling program of work, and there'll be more costs and projects to come before we're done this modernization program.
Yeah, great. If we could see those numbers, that would be very helpful for me, because I'm still having trouble getting from 5.9 billion to 89,000 jobs. Right? There's something else going on there. I have a question relating to the briefing that we got from the analysts, so thank you very much for that. It talks about the governance for the long-term vision, and I'm just going to quote something. They state that the scale of the project is massive and is technically challenging. The most significant challenge, however, is the complex governance. The legislative branch is responsible for determining project requirements, scope. The executive branch, represented by the Minister of Public Service and Procurement, is responsible for budget and schedule. Perhaps you can explain why that is the most significant challenge of the whole project. I look at the project, I mean, there's massive challenges, right? Structural and engineering and architectural. Why is this the most significant challenge?
That's for you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Van Papt, it's an interesting question. If you look at Parliament, it's a combination of multiple institutions. So you have the Library of Parliament, you have the Senate, you have the House of Commons, you have the Parliamentary PPS. You have that share an operational responsibility for and operate in the same buildings. So Public Works as the project authority, and us, the House Administration, has functional authority over the House requirements. But if you now...
My committee's got now over 8 million pages of information. Just in the first tranche, by the way, what we discovered is that somebody in the federal health agencies, this interagency communication, hid the signal. They admitted there was a signal on myocarditis, and they hid it. They didn't warn the public. They didn't warn doctors. So that's just one instance of corruption and lies told by the CDC. We've got a lot of others we'll be rolling out, okay? So we held our first hearing and permanent subcommittee investigation on that hiding of the signal of myocarditis. We've heard a lot of studies, okay? As I've looked into science, it's been thoroughly corrupted. Here's data, and I'd like to enter this sheet into the record. I've been publishing this chart for, since really early 2021, when I'm on, for example, talk radio shows and they talk about this, they get deplatformed, or they were, because of all the censorship during the Biden administration. Here's the facts. The VAERS system that was touted in October of 2020, this great safety surveillance system on COVID, a few months later, when they didn't like the results, they started denigrating their own system. But VAERS shows that there have been 38,742 deaths reported on VAERS worldwide associated with the COVID vaccine. 38,742. 9,252 of those deaths occurred on the day of vaccination or within 1 or 2 days.
Hey guys, brief update on my dad, because I know a lot of you have reached out and asked and have been waiting for one, as have we, obviously. I don't have a lot to say because everything's been slow. He's still very unwell, but he's not in the hospital. I'm seeing him every day for hours, which is really nice. We're working with great specialists and giving him more time to recover. I'm hopeful he will recover with time. When I posted the last video, I didn't know if he would recover at all. It was really scary, and I'm hopeful now, but it's still early on, and he's still quite unwell, and we're still really not sure what's going on, whether it's an immune system issue, neurological, both. So I wanted to give an update that was like, things are really bad, but they're not as bad as they were a month ago or 2 months ago. So that's the update. I wish things would just go back to normal, but they're not there yet. Thank you so much for your prayers. We need them. I'll let you guys know as soon as I can if anything changes. Hopefully he's on the road to recovery. As for me, I haven't really been online, or at least posting, because the situation's stressful and sad, and I don't really want to get on a camera and pretend everything's okay. So I've basically been offline really since last February with the pregnancy, then Audrey, my 7-month-old now, getting incredibly sick, then Dad getting sick. Audrey, on the other hand,
we in the Conservative caucus are united. We believe that Canada needs a pipeline to the Pacific, and that we need to override the discriminatory anti-Canada ban on shipping Canadian energy overseas. We need this pipeline because it will make for stronger take-home pay, it will make for affordable living, and it will make for a sovereign, self-reliant economy. Let's talk for a moment about the incredible benefits that such a pipeline would bring. It would allow us to move $30 billion a year of Canadian energy overseas to the 2.5 billion Asian customers that would then pay world prices for it. $30 billion would be the single biggest increase in overseas exports that any decision by this country could make. To put this into perspective, recently I pointed out that the Prime Minister, after running on the promise that we were in an existential crisis and needed to do the unimaginable at speeds not seen in generations, had not succeeded in removing a single foreign tariff on Canadian exports despite countless months of world travel. He snapped back that there's been a trade deal with Indonesia. Well, forget the fact that it was the previous Prime Minister that negotiated that, something the current one has a bad habit of doing, is taking credit for things he did not do. But by the government's own projections, If that trade deal were to be as good as they promised, it would add $400 million to our exports. The pipeline to the Pacific would add 75 times more to Canada's exports overseas than the only agreement that the Prime Minister likes to brag about. So there is literally not a single trade deal you could sign, not a single government project you could fund that would come anywhere close to opening up the $30 billion of overseas non-U.S. exports that this single project would enable. It would mean thousands of extra jobs for Canadians in Western Canada, but also potentially in Central Canada, who might be the ones supplying the steel for this patriotic pipeline. It would mean the communities on the route would have new life as workers would be filling restaurants with their paychecks. Local vendors would be able to sell more clothing, more housing supplies, and other goods to enable and rejuvenate communities all across the north part of Alberta and British Columbia, originating as it would be from Hardisty, Alberta, in my wonderful riding. The best people in the world would therefore benefit from this incredible project. And I add, Madam Speaker, that it not only would it give paychecks, it would bring tax revenues that would allow us to fund more schools, hospitals, better policing, and increase social services, not through higher taxes, as the Liberals so often favor, but rather through a booming economy. Furthermore, when you export more Canadian goods abroad, you force other countries to buy Canadian dollars. That raises the dollar and therefore the purchasing power of our people. The cost of goods that are internationally priced become more affordable. More affordable food, fuel, and inputs to build housing. A stronger dollar means in a more affordable Canada, and that is our ultimate purpose. The biggest problem in Canada today is people cannot afford to live. After Liberals doubled housing costs, doubled the cost at the grocery store, doubled lineups at food banks, and doubled our national debt. One way to make life more affordable is to have a strong Canadian dollar that buys more food, fuel, and housing. All of these incredible benefits would be a no-brainer, and we shouldn't even have to debate it. In fact, Madam Speaker, we wouldn't have to debate it if the previous Conservative government's decision to approve the Northern Gateway pipeline to the Pacific had been allowed to go ahead. But in a November of 2016 cabinet decision, this Liberal government killed the Northern Gateway pipeline. The current Prime Minister, who was not in the cabinet at the time, went on to testify at the Industry Committee that he agreed with killing the Northern Gateway pipeline. The current government continues to have a tanker ban that blocks shipping Canadian oil off the northwest coast of BC, while allowing American tankers to move oil between Alaska and the U.S. West Coast. So apparently it's safe when the Americans transport oil through those same waters, but not when Canadians do it. Clearly an act by this government of economic self-harm, of discriminating against Canadians. Now, the Prime Minister suddenly claimed that he'd reversed himself. He signed an MOU. Now, to believe that he is actually committed to the MOU, you have to believe that he now says he was wrong about everything he wrote and that the Liberal government did in the preceding 10 years. That he was wrong about the emissions cap, wrong about the electricity regulations, wrong about shipping oil through a pipeline from Alberta to the Pacific, and wrong about the tanker ban. And he was wrong about all of those things, but you'd have to believe that he has accepted that wrong. So let's give him the benefit of the doubt. Let's give him a chance to come in the House of Commons and vote in favor of what he promised. So Conservatives brought forward a good faith motion just to make sure that Liberals meant what they said, to get them all in the House of Commons to vote on whether they want a pipeline to the Pacific and whether they're prepared to open up our waters to shipping energy overseas. Now, the Liberals went dead quiet. I expected them to enthusiastically applaud this gesture of goodwill. They went dead quiet over the weekend, telling reporters on background they had no idea how they were going to vote on their own MOU proposal for a pipeline and an adjustment to the oil tanker moratorium. I even used wording right out of the Prime Minister's MOU to make it easy for him. But it still wasn't easy enough. As we know with Liberals, they often start by making promises, and then they go to making excuses. So they've now been generating a whole lot of excuses about why they have to vote against the wording in their own MOU. Let's go through some of the excuses. That it didn't mention that they want to accompany the pipeline with a carbon capture project. They claimed that it didn't go far enough in spelling out Indigenous engagement and ownership. They claimed that it didn't clearly lay out the plan to engage with British Columbia. Now, forget for a second the obvious fact that if the Liberals are telling the truth when they say they support the whole MOU, then they should be prepared to vote for any part of the MOU. After all, it's their MOU. So that obvious contradiction aside, we know the Liberals have made these excuses. And so, Madam Speaker, I'm going to help brush away those excuses for them. We're going to amend our own motion in order to include the things that Liberals claim we left out. So we are going to amend the motion in favor so that it will support green lighting, carbon capture and storage, green lighting Indigenous ownership in the project, and engaging with British Columbia. And we are going to, in the spirit of good faith, if we are removing all the Liberal excuses, because we know what the Prime Minister's plan is. He wants to pretend that he supports a pipeline like the majority of Canadians just long enough to get through the next election, while he quietly whispers to his Keep It in the Ground caucus, "It will never happen. Don't worry. Just hang tight with me and be quiet. We'll kill it after the election." To make sure that he can't play that duplicitous game, we're going to give him this amendment. And I move the following amendment, Madam Speaker, that the motion be amended by inserting the word including the word, that the motion be amended by inserting after the word including the word I, and by adding after the words Indigenous people the following. 2, green lighting the world's largest carbon capture, utilization and storage CCUS project for the purpose of making Alberta oil among the lowest carbon intensity produced barrels of oil in the world. You are making 3, in people's providing meaningful opportunity for Indigenous rights holders to participate in consultation processes and economic opportunities through Indigenous ownership, partnerships and benefits. 4, engaging with British Columbia immediately in a trilateral discussion on the pipeline project and during the potential development and construction of the bitumen pipeline referred to in the MOU, and to further the economic interests of BC related to their own projects of interest that involve the province of Alberta, including
"7 days a week for those in recovery from addiction. This consistent availability ensures help and support is always accessible for vulnerable people in need. It's become a vital resource for groups like Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, and Al-Anon. The Chilliwack-Alano Club is more than just a building. It's a place for community and fellowship where members and visitors can enjoy a reduced-price breakfast or lunch. Friends and families can gather for coffee or to play board games. Christmas parties, holiday dinners, and weddings are held here too, all in an environment free from drugs and alcohol. Alano is a hub dedicated to healing and recovery, recognizing the importance of social activities for those on their journey to live a clean and sober lifestyle. On behalf of all of those who have been helped by the Chilliwack-Alano Club, thank you for the difference you are making in people's lives. Congratulations on your 40 years of serving our community.
The Honourable Member for Lac-Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, a great lady has left us. The doyenne of our actresses, Béatrice Picard, passed away yesterday at the venerable age of 96, and yet we all felt she left us too soon. Béatrice Picard graced the stages of Quebec theatres for more than 60 years. She played iconic roles in more than 40 plays at the Duceppe, the theatre with which she will forever be associated. Think of La mort d'un commis voyageur, or The Death of a Salesman, or Harold and Maude, which she performed just recently. She lit up our big and small screens alike and won over audiences with memorable roles. From Le Survenant to Un gars, une fille, from Saint-Florien to The Simpsons, Béatrice Picard was also, above all, the beauty of aging. As spokesperson for Les Petits Frères and Salon des Aînés de Saint-Jérôme, Béatrice Picard was committed to serving her fellow Quebecers, giving her time and energy. Yes, a great lady has left us. On behalf of the Bloc, on behalf of Quebecers, and more personally on behalf of the Duceppe family, I offer our deepest condolences to her loved ones and family. Thank you for everything, Béatrice.
The honourable member for Kings Hants.
Speaker, the Hants County Christmas Angels is a long-standing tradition in Kings Hants dating back to 1977 that is truly the definition of community and Christmas spirit. Every year, this volunteer organization seeks to raise funds to support local families in need. This year was exceptional. Over the course of a day filled with local musicians and local performances, $93,108 was raised for families in need right in Hants County. I would like to congratulate the Honorary Chair, Lisa Bland, and 2025 Coordinator Leanne Perry, and the entire Volunteer Board of Directors for their contribution to this significant effort. To everyone who contributed and supported this wonderful holiday tradition, thank you for making Hants County and our communities across Kings Hants an even greater place to call home, especially this time around the Christmas season. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to take this opportunity to wish a Merry Christmas and a Happy Holidays to everyone back home in Kings Hants. Thank you very much.
The honourable member for Calgary Nose Hill.
After a decade of Liberal obfuscation and obstruction, Albertans have had enough. We need a pipeline to the Pacific. But yesterday, the Liberal member for Calgary Confederation voted against a motion that would have reassured his constituents that hope was possible. And they're applauding him for doing that. It reminded me of the time a few years ago when another Liberal MP from Calgary told Albertans that he would bang on the table for pipelines. He then betrayed his constituents by supporting the Liberal tanker ban and the Liberal No More Pipelines bill. It seems like history is repeating itself. But that Liberal member went on to lose his seat in the next election, while Albertans went through unnecessary hardships and lost jobs because of Liberal anti-energy ideology. Alberta has the right to develop its natural resources, and voting in favour of yesterday's motion would have been a step in the right direction. It would have reassured the province that the government could do something better. But the member did something opposite. He should do better. What a shame.
The honourable member for Winnipeg West.
I rise today to acknowledge the vital role of Deer Lodge Centre plays in our community and to recognize the ongoing support of the Deer Lodge Centre Foundation. As the third largest healthcare facility in Manitoba, Deer Lodge has long been a trusted place of care for families, offering rehabilitation, chronic care, dementia care, mental health, and bariatric services. Its roots stretch back to 1916, when it first opened to support returning World War I soldiers. And that deep commitment to serving veterans continues to guide its mission today. Deer Lodge remains a place where both aging veterans and younger service members receive specialized, compassionate care. The Foundation strengthens this connection by raising funds that enhance comfort, expand programs, and foster innovative care. I'm grateful to the staff, volunteers, families, and donors whose dedication ensures Deer Lodge remains a compassionate, community-centered place of healing and dignity. Thank you.
The honourable member for Lanard Frontenac.
In this week before Christmas, one might wonder why write a poem at all and not just use AI. AI knows meter and rhyme and all their uses, can make Clement Moore's verse sound like Dr. Seuss's. AI seems to do everything better than you can. Flies drones and drives safer than a real human. Its advantage in word search is very well sealed. It found me 29 words that rhyme with Brookfield. But there are things too bizarre for AI to know, like what draws Katy Perry to Justin Trudeau. You can ask, but AI can't give you directions. Why Jagmeet Singh lasted through 3 elections. And AI can't explain to me or to you why the Grits won't vote to support their own MOU. Some places there are where AI just can't budget. It's going to take humans to balance the budget. which is why this poem was still written by me, but the partisan bits are from ChatGPT.
The honourable member for Winnipeg South Centre.
Mr. Speaker, Friday will mark 3 years since the passing of my father, the Honourable Jim Carr. My dad loved Canada, its people, its culture, its kindness and tenacity, and all that it gave him. He taught me from a young age that those with whom we disagree are merely our opposition, not our enemies. He conducted himself with integrity, honesty, and compassion. Seldom a week goes by without someone coming up to me to share a fond memory with him, and each encounter ends with some variation of the same. He was a good man, they say. Whenever the time may come that I look back at my own parliamentary career, I hope I will be able to genuinely say that I have lived up to the standard that he has set for us all. In the Jewish faith, upon one's passing, we have an expression of condolence that we offer. May their memory be a blessing. Mr. Speaker, on that account, I can say with all my heart that with him in my mind, I stand eternally blessed. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Battle River Crowfoot, the honourable leader of the opposition.
On what should have been the proudest moment of her life, Maria Corina Machado was not even there. Unable to attend the ceremony after months of hiding and fighting the regime in Venezuela, her daughter accepted the Nobel Peace Prize on her behalf. Quoting her mother, "Our journey towards freedom has always lived inside us. We are returning to ourselves. We are returning home." For years, Venezuela's Iron Lady has boldly opposed the socialist Maduro dictatorship and the economic collapse it has engendered and inflicted on the once proud and free nation. At great personal cost for herself, Machado has inspired millions, both in her country and around the world. The Nobel Prize awarded her for tireless work promoting democratic rights for the Venezuelan people is therefore a victory not only for herself, but for all of those who've suffered under decades of socialism. May we all be inspired by her courage and determination to stand up for freedom over socialism and for the people all around the world. Thank you.
The honourable member for Dartmouth Cole Harbour.
'Twas 2 weeks before Christmas. I still can't hold back the smile. Even we didn't believe that we'd be back on this side of the aisle. Canada needed someone smart, a proven young steed. That rude old guy who blew a 22-point lead. The Conservatives were lost with the carbon tax dead, while visions of Trudeau on a yacht danced in their leader's head. The Bloc dreamed of king-making, of holding great sway. But His Majesty's loyal opposition? Oh mon Dieu, not even for a day. The NDP, well, they were reduced to 7. My gosh, even Nova Scotia now has 11. Now, for a new government, we sure have a lot of gray hairs. But we won 4 in a row, so who cares? A trade war with friends, what's ahead is a fight. Christmas came early, Canadians chose right. There'll be no Christmas election, of that I'm now certain, thanks to 2 Conservatives hiding behind that curtain. Now, I've thrown lots of jabs, but I promise they're in jest. To each and every one of you, I truly wish you all the best. I hope you all could hear me with my voice raised up. All we hear in this place these days are heckles. I hope the Speaker doesn't wake up. Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. Oral questions, questions orales.
Mr. Speaker, who suggested to the Liberals that they should open up our borders to out-of-control immigration that increased the cost of housing, took away jobs for Canadians, and put so much pressure on the healthcare system while causing the decline of French? Well, it was Mark Wiseman, ultra-liberal, the head of Mouvement Siècle, who suggested that the population of Canada should be tripled. Why is it, Mr. Speaker, that every time someone brings into place politics that are against our interests, the governments appoint them? First off, because it's tangentially connected, we want to wish the best to our ambassador, Kristen Hellman. Mr. Speaker, she has been of incredible service to our country, and she continues to guide us well and offer good counsel. Mr. Speaker, the Leader of the Opposition is mentioning a policy that has never been and will never be the government's policy.
The Leader of the Opposition.
But the person who suggested this very radical policy, liberal policy, is Mark Wiseman. He said the population of Canada should be tripled to 100 million. And I quote, even if it causes Quebec to howl. This is someone who has shown contempt for Quebec and cannot negotiate for Quebec. He suggested policies that would increase the cost of living, took away jobs, and increases the cost of our healthcare system. Why would he want to appoint this person as an ambassador? The Honourable Minister, you'll allow me, Mr. Speaker, to also commend and thank Madam Hillman for her service to Canada. I've had the opportunity to work closely with Kirsten over the last few months. I truly appreciate her friendship and her work for Canada. I understand the Leader of the Opposition is trying to extrapolate a number of faulty elements of certain aspects that he's mentioned have never been and will never be the government's policy. I understand he's trying to get a clip on tonight's news, but this won't be the one.
Opposition. Canadians have wanted to know who came up with the idea of radical open doors, liberal immigration that overwhelmed our healthcare, housing, and job market. Well, it turns out it was Mark Wiseman, the Prime Minister's corporate crony, longtime Liberal elite, and head of the Century Initiative, whose stated mission is to triple the population of Canada to 100 million people, a policy that is designed to profit multinational corporations by driving wages down and housing costs up. Why is it every time somebody comes along with an idea that harms Canadians and drives up their cost of living, the Prime Minister gives them a promotion?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I wish to reiterate my thanks to our outgoing ambassador to the United States of America, Kirsten Hillman, who has furnished incredible, loyal, and very insightful services to the people and to the government of Canada. Mr. Speaker, I think our country owes her a debt of gratitude. And once again, the policy that the member across refers to has never been and will never be the policy of the government of Canada.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, every time a Liberal insider does damage to Canadians, drives up their cost of living, they get a reward. It's not just with Mr. Wiseman, it's the Prime Minister himself. His policies are driving up grocery prices for the year to come. And what did he do as punishment for himself? Gave himself an $800,000 privately chartered flight to Egypt, where there were meetings happening in which he had absolutely no role other than a photo op. Why is it that Canadians need to line up at food banks so that he can go jetting around the world for photo ops?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I know in the spirit of the holiday season, the Leader of the Opposition is not surely not suggesting that the Prime Minister not attend as auspicious an event as the ceremony with respect to peace in the Middle East and Gaza, and joining multitudes of other world leaders at that occasion and representing and making Canadians proud for his attendance at that event.
The Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister was conspicuously irrelevant at that meeting, where he had played no role whatsoever in the agreement, and yet he charged Canadians $800,000 for a privately chartered jet. Apparently, his own prime ministerial jet was not good enough for him. He does this while he imposes an industrial carbon tax on farm equipment, on fertilizer, on food processors that has driven 2.2 million Canadians to a food bank. Why is the Prime Minister being the Grinch of the grocery store, charging taxpayers for flights when Canadians can't eat?
The Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister's work on the world.
I can't hear. Also, I just would like to mention to the Honourable Member for Oakville West that I could hear her all the way here. So if we could keep it a little lower. We will now go to the Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister's work on the world stage with his counterparts to bring an end to the conflict in the Middle East is extremely important. He is continuing to be engaged on the peace plan in the Middle East. The plan, in fact, reflects Canada's long-standing positions that Hamas should have no role in the governance of Palestine, and the ceasefire provides an opportunity for the Prime Minister and other world leaders to continue to work on humanitarian aid for the benefit of all.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister's refusal, even though he's in Ottawa, to answer my questions directly is not keeping with the Christmas spirit. And he's going to. This is at a time when he's driven up the cost of living so much that 2.2 million Canadians are lined up at food banks, that food prices are going to drive an extra $1,000 onto the grocery bills of Canadians next year after he imposed higher taxes on farm equipment, fertilizer, food packaging, and more. Will the Prime Minister, instead of being the Grinch of the grocery store, reverse these taxes so that Canadians can have an affordable, delicious Christmas?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Mr. Speaker, while the member opposite talks about imaginary taxes, Canadians know exactly what's going on, and it's related to climate change, Mr. Speaker. Our thoughts are with the cattle farmers in the western provinces this year, Mr. Speaker, who have faced unimaginable loss of crop and loss of cattle as a result of drought, Mr. Speaker. That's driving up the price of beef, something that we can't actually control right now. But you know what we can, Mr. Speaker? We can make sure that Canadians have extra money in their pocket. That's what Canadians are counting on, that will be for them in these tough times.
The Honourable Member for Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister is considering appointing Mark Meisman as Ambassador to Washington. He is a co-founder of the Century Initiative, a policy that aims to increase the population to 100 million people. It's beyond Quebec's capacity to cope. I quote, 100 million Canadians by 2100 should be the federal government's policy, even if it makes Quebec howl. He used the term howl in English, which literally means the cry of a dog. Does the Prime Minister really think he can represent Quebecers abroad? The Honourable Government House Leader. As it's been said on numerous occasions in this House, Mr. Speaker, that policy that my colleague is referring to was never a Government of Canada policy and never will be. The Honourable Member for Saint-Jean. Well, Mr. Speaker, you know, wise men say that only fools rush in. The Prime Minister already made an appointment last week that turned the entire province of Quebec against him. Let's hope that he won't make the same mistake twice. When Mark Meisman talks about imposing immigration policies on Quebecers, even if it makes them howls, he demonstrates not only his contempt for Quebec, but also his contempt for democracy. There are 44 Quebecers among the Liberals. Is there at least one who will stand up and tell his leader to appoint someone else? The Honourable Minister for Government Transformation. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. The policy she is referring to for the sixth time in the House today I want to reiterate, is not a Government of Canada policy, never will be. But if she does want to discuss culture, Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased with our Minister of Culture and our investment, $4.1 billion on culture, official languages. We asked the Bloc Québécois for something for the preparation of our budget. They didn't come up with anything for the cultural sector. Thank you very much. The Honourable Member for Berthier-Masquinongé. Mr. Speaker, the Liberal drift towards authoritarianism continues after Bill C-5, which gives the federal government the power to bypass all legislation for its major projects, such as pipelines. Now we have Bill C-15. The Liberals are enshrining in law the right for all their ministers to break any law under the pretext of innovation. That's not all. Bill S-4, introduced by Liberal senators, also means laws can be circumvented. If the Liberals can decide everything without respecting the law or consulting anyone, can we still call this a democracy? The Honourable Government House Leader. Certainly, we can call it a democracy, Mr. Speaker. We are discussing these matters publicly, so I think that is the definition of a democratic debate. With respect to Bill C-15, it contains tools that are very important to advance our economy, to advance innovation in Canada, and to make sure that we can achieve great things together for Quebec to achieve its ambitions, for Canada to achieve its economic ambitions and other ambitions as well, Mr. Speaker. We are pleased to continue to debate these matters with the member and the House as a whole.
Minister has a problem. A pipeline to the Pacific is very popular with Canadians. Canadians want to stop the practice of selling Canadian oil at a massive discount to the United States when billions of customers lie just on the other side of the Pacific Ocean. But the Prime Minister has never believed in selling more Canadian energy. He wrote an entire book about leaving Canada's natural resources in the ground, and he cheered on the decision to cancel the Northern Gateway pipeline, and his caucus doesn't support one either. So isn't the real reason why he voted against his own MOU yesterday is he has no intention of actually getting a pipeline built? He just needs to pretend long enough until the next election.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Natural Resources.
Well, Mr. Speaker, we support a pipeline. We support the whole MOU, which is a careful balancing of the economy, the environment, and it gets us away from the United States as a primary trading partner. And that's great news. It also is a MOU that balances the interests of Indigenous peoples and other jurisdictions. We do not support, and we are happy to vote against, games played by the opposition that make a pipeline less likely. That the Leader of the Opposition would do this is ridiculous. It lets Alberta down, but I shouldn't be surprised. Being elected in Battle River does not an Albertan make.
The honourable member for Regina Capel.
Voting against the Prime Minister's own MOU does not a pipeline build, Mr. Speaker. MOU through his own caucus should have been the easy part of the process. This self-declared master negotiator couldn't even do that. Instead, his MOU piles on new conditions and red tape, ties approvals to other projects, hikes the industrial carbon tax, and hands unconstitutional vetoes to other levels of government. It's clear he couldn't even get it through his own caucus. If the Prime Minister couldn't do that, why should Canadians believe he can get a pipeline through all his new hoops and hurdles?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Seniors.
Rachel Notley's new Democrat government, when in partnership with the federal Liberals, we got the first pipeline to Tidewater built in generations. A pipeline that helps pay for schools, hospitals, environmental investments, and supports good union jobs. Now, as a Vancouver Island MP, I support our Prime Minister's vision to build Canada strong with Indigenous peoples, the provinces, and the environment. The Conservatives want to ram things through, never mind Indigenous peoples, never mind the environment. Our thoughtful approach ensures that no Canadian is left behind.
The honourable member for Thornhill.
Yesterday we found out that the Prime Minister
Minister spent almost $800,000 on a one-day taxpayer escape to Egypt to take a photo and not sign an agreement. Struggling Canadians are lining up at food banks, skipping meals, while the Prime Minister takes their money and skips town. We know that this is second nature for the Prime Minister to live large on other people's dime, but can he at least stand up today and explain to hungry Canadians why he treats their tax dollars like his personal travel fund?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, once again, I know the Honourable Deputy Leader of the Conservative Party is not suggesting that the Prime Minister of Canada should not have joined with dozens of his international counterparts for as auspicious an event as the commemoration of a ceasefire in the Middle East, an issue upon which, I might add, she has had a lot to say over the last little while. The Prime Minister of Canada represents Canadians proudly, and Canadians are proud when our Prime Minister attends these events and does incredible business with his counterparts from all around the world.
The Honourable Member for Thornhill.
I will tell that member that that agreement was signed despite the Prime Minister, not because of him. And I'd like to remind the Prime Minister also that in the Toronto food banks got over 4 million visits last year, and they're going to get even more when the price of groceries rises $1,000 per family next year. Will the government kill the industrial carbon tax, the packaging tax, the new fuel tax, so Canadians can afford food, or will he hop on another plane and avoid answering questions in this place altogether?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
The opposition wants to talk about nonsense taxes that don't exist on food, instead of supporting the very things that Canadians have told us time and again they want. They want a Canada Child benefit that's indexed to inflation. They want seniors benefits that are indexed to inflation. They want to make sure, in fact, I think almost all mothers want to make sure that children get healthy food in schools, but not these Conservatives, Mr. Speaker. They want to stand in the way of the very things that Canadians know help them at this time.
Honourable Member for Haldimand Norfolk.
The Prime Minister promised to bring down the price of groceries. A family where I live in Haldimand, Norfolk, reached out to me in desperation. Despite a decent income, they said that they can barely afford groceries for their family and their household. When the Liberals took office in 2015, the average weekly grocery bill was $159. A decade later, it has more than doubled to over $338. Wow. So when will this Prime Minister cut the hidden food taxes so that Canadians can afford to feed their families?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Children and Youth.
I got it. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
She's got it.
Once again,
Don't
members
worry.
opposite are focused on
What a
imaginary
cute little boy.
taxes. On this side of the House, we are continuing to invest in Canadians and the supports that they need, including the Canada Child benefit, which is pegged to inflation and worth up to $8,000 per child under 6 years old in this country. So on this side of the House, we will continue to invest in Canadians and the supports that they need, and we would encourage the members opposite to show a little more support for those programs as well. Thank you.
Honourable Member for Haldimand Norfolk.
Mr. Speaker, there's nothing imaginary about the hunger pains that many Canadians are feeling. Many families are also financially squeezed with a mortgage payment and utility bills, which are rising faster than they can keep up with. These pressures have worsened under the Liberals with the rise in the industrial carbon tax, the packaging tax, and the new fuel tax. All of these hidden taxes are driving up the cost of food. When will the Liberals stop their inflationary spending and cut these hidden food taxes so that Canadians can afford to eat?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Children and Youth.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is clear that we don't want any family to have a hard time feeding themselves, and that's why, in fact, we invest in programs and supports for families precisely so that they can put food on the table and also have school food through the school food program. At the same time, we are creating jobs. This is what Canadians really need, and this is something we're noticing over the last 3 months has been an increase in the number of jobs.
Member for Brandon Souris.
Food bank usage is at an all-time high this holiday season in Manitoba and across the country. Harvest Manitoba's latest report shows that 60,000 Manitobans are relying on food banks every month, and almost 50% of them are families with young children. This is what a decade of food packaging taxes, fuel standards, and a rising industrial carbon tax have done to Canadians. So, Mr. Speaker, my question to the Prime Minister is simple. When will his Liberals finally stop their inflationary spending and cut hidden food taxes so that Canadians can afford to eat this Christmas?
The Honourable Minister for Northern and Arctic Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, the member opposite is from Manitoba, and if he's listening to Manitobans, he would hear that Manitobans are happy with what our government is doing. We're seeing $10 a day daycare for northern Arctic communities. We're also seeing the National Food Program. We're seeing investments in housing and infrastructure like never before. We're seeing the child tax benefits supported with increases, GST housing credits, and enhanced benefits for families so that they can heat their homes. Member opposite needs to get on board.
The Honourable Member for Pierre Boucher, les Patriotes Verchères. Mr. Speaker, when Quebecers and our truckers asked the Liberals to put an end to discount drivers, they ignored us. As a result, it's now the Americans who are asking the federal government to get a move on. I quote the embassy, simply targeting companies allows individuals who commit violations to create a new company under a new name. Mr. Speaker, there are 10 steps to take. The most obvious is to prevent temporary immigrants from entering the trucking industry. It's a step. That is the minimum. When will the Liberals take action? The Honourable Minister of Transport. Mr. Speaker, my honourable friend should speak to the Association des Camionneurs du Québec, who welcome the work of the government, the work of my colleague, the Minister for Labour, myself, and the Minister of Finance. We've instituted a number of measures specifically to put an end to this relic of the Harper days where there were these discount drivers on the roads, and it was made possible. Now, Mr. Speaker, we've taken a number of steps to eliminate this. We are working in cooperation with the provinces, and the member should also welcome these efforts. The Honourable Member for Pierre Boucher, les Patriotes Verchères. Mr. Speaker, the Association des Camionneurs du Québec support our 10 measures. How many have the Liberals brought in? 1, the Liberals are doing nothing because they are infiltrated top to bottom by these discount drivers. The Prime Minister had, as an organizer and donor in his campaign, the spokesperson for a new association defending these low-cost drivers. Not 1, not 2, but 10 Liberal members showed up at that convention, establishing that organization in 2023. They received donations from the promoters of discount drivers. Now the Liberals have to make a choice. Are they going to protect people on the road, or are they going to continue to protect these discount drivers? The Honourable Minister of Transport. Mr. Speaker, this government has implemented far more than a single measure, Mr. Speaker. We scrapped the T4A moratorium. We have the sharing of information between the agency and the Labour Department. We made sure that inspections of the Labour work was happening. The Labour Department was on, that there were blitzes. Now we're asking the provinces. We're hoping that they will focus on the certifications, issuance of driver's license, and the rest. That is the work of provinces. That the Bloc member want us to take over Quebec areas of jurisdiction? I don't think so. The Honourable Member for Louis Saint-Laurent at Kiawenrac. Mr. Speaker, in Canadian diplomacy, there is no position more important than that of Canadian Ambassador to the United States. That person who holds that position must be very tightly connected with the Prime Minister. Now we hear Mr. Mike Wiseman might be appointed by the Prime Minister. This individual supports the initiative of the century, namely a population of 100 million by 2100. And he did even worse. He said, even if it makes Quebec howl. Mr. Speaker, why would the government appoint someone who insults Quebecers? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, with all the appreciation I have for my colleague across the way, the simple fact that he is repeating the very same question his leader asked, just to have a clip on tonight's news, perhaps at 6 p.m. show or maybe with Madame Galipo's show. He knows full well, Mr. Speaker, that public policy, those that he's referring to, have never been the Liberal government's public policies. They will never be. I understand he's trying to make something out of this, but it won't work. The Honourable Member for Louis Saint-Laurent à Kyawenrak. What isn't working is that the architect of this very initiative will be appointed ambassador to the U.S. Even worse, the minister knows full well that this very Mr. Wiseman is an opponent of supply management. So we're not inventing anything by saying that. That's the truth. Imagine the prime...
Supply management, like me. Qu'est-ce que le ministre...
What will the minister say to explain the appointment of a man who insults Quebecers and then is against supply management? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, once again, our colleague from Quebec is giving me here an opportunity to inform him of the fact that as recently as last night, I was at an activity held by the Chambers of Commerce of Quebec. I had an opportunity myself to speak with the Vice President of the Dairy Producers of Quebec, and of course we discussed supply management. I was able to reassure my friend in Montreal last night that the government will always defend supply management. We will not be negotiating supply management with the Americans. The Prime Minister was quite clear, and I'm pleased to repeat this here in the House again before you.
The Honourable Member for Brantford, Brant South, Six Nations.
Last night at the Justice Committee, Conservatives moved to immediately prioritize Bill C-14 and scrap dangerous Liberal bail laws. And what did the Liberals do? Shamefully, they blocked us. Not once, not twice, 3 times. Wow. And now we just learned that they canceled today's 8-hour meeting. What? Instead of stopping criminals, these Liberals are more concerned with prosecuting religious expression. Why don't the Liberals just get out of the way and let Conservatives finally fix the broken bail system? Get out of the way.
The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Mr. Speaker, methinks the member doth protest too much. We have watched he and his colleagues filibuster the work of the Justice Committee for many weeks on end. Mr. Speaker, he says that he's not responsible for it, but it's actually all on video. For hours they go on and on discussing their preference for puppies or kittens when they in fact could be debating laws that are designed to keep Canadians safe. It's essential that we move forward with an aggressive campaign to improve public safety that we campaigned on to fight hate in this country, to improve bail systems in this country, and to ensure every community is safe.
The Honourable Member for Brantford, Brant South, Six Nations. The member may go ahead.
The Liberals had multiple opportunities to crack down on violent repeat offenders. Instead, they chose religious censorship over public safety. Liberal members from Burnaby Central, Dorval, Lachine, LaSalle, Mount Royal, and even the Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Justice must answer to Canadians for why they keep obstructing the study of Bill C-14. They were given the chance to protect Canadians. They chose not to. How many more murders, sex assaults, and violent extortions are enough for this tired Liberal government to finally protect Canadians?
The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Mr. Speaker, the speed with which this member will cite these kind of tragic crimes as a political prop is simply beneath this.
I don't know what to say to that. I mean, well, obviously, it's quite clear that I'll allow the minister to start from the top.
Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives are now even finding a way to filibuster question period. In all honesty, Mr. Speaker, the readiness with which the Conservatives come to this conversation where they will cite heinous crimes to make a political point, but then stall the proceedings to actually advance the laws that police chiefs are asking for, that victims are asking for, that law enforcement from their own communities are deliberately asking them to get on with. What's getting in the way?
There's a problem when yours truly can't hear because there's too much noise, and then I have to stop it because I need to hear what people are saying. If the Honourable Minister would like to conclude his comments.
Mr. Speaker, the excuse they are using now to prevent addressing bail and sentencing is that they won't support measures that are designed to combat hate crimes in this country. We can fight hate. We can keep communities safe. The Conservatives should get out of the way.
The Honourable Member for Elgin, St. Thomas, London South.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yesterday, Conservatives on the Justice Committee tried 3 times to let the committee prioritize the study of much-needed bail reforms on which it would be possible for us to have consensus. But what was so pressing, the Liberals didn't want to study their own bail bill. They launched a full-scale assault on religious freedom in this country that risks prosecution of those who express religious beliefs. And now the minister says after passing the amendment, he'll start his consultations. This is the minister that said he would rather spend time with his family. Could he do that instead of censoring Canadians?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Well, Mr. Speaker.
Come on. Like, McKinnon is going to stall it just by being disgusting. People are repulsed by this
Mr.
guy.
Speaker, because that member wrote the biography of the member for Battle River Crowfoot, he knows very well the tricks of the trade when it comes to obstructing legislation. But here's the problem that Conservatives have. We have systematically tabled legislation in this House to battle child pornography, extortion, intimate partner violence, to do bail reform. We have put border measures, we have put immigration crackdowns all in front of this House. What do the Conservatives do? Filibuster, jam, just like the book says.
The Honourable Member for Pickering, Brooklyn.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians expect jail time for the most serious crimes, especially those involving children.
The Honourable Member for Pickering, Brooklyn.
Canadians expect jail time for most serious crimes, especially those involving children.
Remember your Nova Scotia thing yesterday? Pretty funny.
Yeah, we don't want strike 3 here, okay? So, because then I could always upset the order. I could always upset the order of questioning. The Honourable Member for Pickering, Brooklyn.
And they also expect laws that will withstand court scrutiny and respect the Charter. Can the Minister of Justice inform this House about what the government is doing to preserve strong mandatory minimum penalties for imprisonment while ensuring they remain constitutional and enforceable, please?
The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Speaker, I want to thank my honourable colleague for her question and her support in advancing the Protecting Victims Act, which treats more seriously femicide in this country, which criminalizes coercive control, and which includes new higher maximum penalties for a range of sexual offenses. In addition, Mr. Speaker, this bill restores mandatory minimum penalties for a range of sexual crimes and trafficking-related crimes that were struck down because they were not constitutionally compliant. We are moving forward with a path that is going to ensure people who commit heinous sexual crimes, including against our kids, spend time behind bars. If only the Conservatives would get out of the way and let this House adopt the law.
The Honourable Member for Mission Matsqui Abbotsford.
Mr. Speaker, nearly 1 in 4 British Columbians are food insecure, and food bank usage is soaring. The Prime Minister told Canadians to judge him by grocery prices. Well, the verdict is in. under this Liberal government, food banks are not just for emergencies anymore. They are now an entrenched lifeline of support. When will these Liberals stop their inflationary spending and cut the hidden taxes on food so Canadians can afford to eat?
The Honourable Minister of Veterans Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, opposition MPs are too comfortable with fiction and fantasies. British Columbians demand facts and the respect that they can tell the difference. Here are the facts. Mr. Speaker, we're delivering a middle-class tax cut to put savings in the pockets of 22 million Canadians. We've made the National School Food Program permanent to save families up to $800 a year, and we're investing in 175,000 youth and student employment opportunities. British Columbians deserve the facts, Mr. Speaker, and the fact is we're delivering for Canadians.
The Honourable Member for Mission Matchley Abbotsford.
Speaker, that member should be ashamed, outlining fiction and fantasy in respect to the challenges of British Columbians to feed their families. The 2026 food price report says grocery prices will keep climbing $1,000 more next year, forcing families to compromise on healthy food and to rely more on food banks. Farmers in my riding, the breadbasket of British Columbia, tell me they're drowning in costs. Fertilizer, fuel, and transportation have all skyrocketed. Nationally, producers are taking on more debt than any time since 1981. Instead of raising taxes to grow, ship, and sell our food, when will this government face reality and lower food prices?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Seniors.
Mr. Speaker, as Christmas approaches, I'm reminded that there are 143 Conservatives over there who might as well be named Scrooge. British Columbians on my riding of Esquimalt Sandwich Soup know that Scrooge from Battle River Crowfoot doesn't want to feed hungry children in schools. That Scrooge from Thornhill doesn't want money going to seniors through old age security. That Scrooge from Haldimand Norfolk doesn't want parents to get a check for childcare benefits. I sure hope that the Conservatives get a visit from the ghosts of Christmas present, past, and future so that they embrace the Canadian spirit of compassion.
Come and show that compassion! The Honourable Member for Hamilton East, Stony Creek.
While Canadians can't afford to put food on the table, this Liberal Prime Minister spent nearly $800,000 taxpayer dollars chartering a flight to Egypt. While he was jet-setting, the reality here at home is that grocery prices have skyrocketed, and the food price report 2020 shows, quote, it's expected to get even worse. The report confirms that in 2026, Canadians will pay an extra $1,000 per year on groceries. When will these Liberals stop their reckless spending so Canadians can afford to feed themselves?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Labour.
Mr. Speaker, our government is focused on creating opportunities. And let me tell that member, jobs are up in this country, Mr. Speaker. Wages are up. Growth is up. But we're not stopping there, Mr. Speaker. We're creating opportunities for Hamilton. We're building big, Mr. Speaker, with the largest infrastructure investment in Canadian history, which that member voted against. We're going to be building major projects in the national interest, community centres, hospitals, healthcare, Mr. Speaker. When are the Conservatives going to get on board, Mr. Speaker? We're doing the hard work on this side. They aren't.
The Honourable Member for Hamilton East, Stony Creek.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to remind the member from Hamilton over there that instead of chirping us and heckling us, he should go visit a food bank in Hamilton. The Stony Creek Food Bank is serving 60 people per day. That's up 400% in the last 2 years. Last week, youth visits were up double compared to this time last year. It's no wonder food is so expensive. Industrial carbon tax, packaging tax, and the new fuel tax all raise food prices. Again, I will ask, will the Liberals cut their hidden taxes on food so that
the Secretary of State for Labour.
Mr. Speaker, record in this House speaks volumes, Mr. Speaker. That party has voted against every affordability measure this side of the House has brought forward. They voted against dental care, which is helping Canadians get to the dentist. Mr. Speaker, the Canada Child Benefit, which gives checks to parents to help their kids with food and clothing. Mr. Speaker, Build Canada Homes, which is going to reduce the price of housing in this country, Mr. Speaker. Automatic tax filing. That party's voted against every measure to help Canadians. They come in here, they say they support affordability, but they don't.
Honourable member for Airdrie Cochrane.
Mr. Speaker, Heather from Airdrie is a senior who has worked in Canada since she was 13 years old, and she and her husband paid their dues, but now, after a lifetime of contributing, they are, and I quote, next to having to use the food bank just to get by. It's unacceptable that after 10 long years of this Liberal government, seniors who built this country can't even afford groceries.
Yep.
When will this Prime Minister axe his inflationary spending, his industrial carbon tax, his fuel tax, and his food packaging tax so Canadians can afford to eat?
That's right.
The Honourable Minister for Emergency Management and Community Resilience.
Mr. Speaker, the industrial carbon tax has next to zero impact on the cost of food. School food programs, on the other hand, lower food costs for many families. But the Conservatives voted against it, just like they voted against childcare, dental care, and affordable housing. Day after day, we hear the Conservatives talk about making life more affordable for Canadians. So why do they keep voting against the things that would do exactly that?
The Honourable Member for Airdrie Cochrane.
Well, there's a lot of people struggling in this country who would beg to differ. I'll talk to you about Justin, a middle-class dad from Airdrie, who says the cost of living crisis is eroding middle-class stability, with families being squeezed by soaring housing, grocery, utility, and fuel prices. And that's all because the Liberal industrial carbon tax, the fuel tax, the food packaging tax have increased the cost to grow, to ship, and to sell everything that Canadians need. So why won't this Prime Minister finally axe his inflationary spending and end his punishing taxes so that Canadians can afford a decent life once again?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Natural Resources.
Well, Mr. Speaker, Albertans are steady people, sensible people, and they know imaginary taxes are imaginary. They know there's no packaging tax, and they know that wages are growing in this country, and well, there is much, much work to do. We are managing a very difficult storm very well, and we welcome the members' offices to help us with that storm instead of whatever this has been today, because this has been wild. But, Mr. Speaker, there is much work to do in this country, and we want them to help.
The Honourable Member for Lévis-Lotbinière. Mr. Speaker, at a time when Canadians are having trouble affording food, this Prime Minister spent $736,000 of taxpayer money to go to Egypt. A trip booked at the last minute, which tripled the price. Mr. Speaker, this Prime Minister's carelessness is done at the taxpayer's expense. At a time when next year Canadians will pay $1,000 more to put food on their plates. Will the Liberals end their inflationary spending and get rid of the hidden taxes on food so that Canadians can finally afford to eat? The Honourable Secretary of State. What we're doing is restoring Canadians' purchasing power, putting it in their Christmas stockings. We have put in place a series of measures which will make daily costs easier. $10 a day childcare, the Canada Child Benefit. There's a whole bunch of measures we are putting in place. We are also working hard to improve the economy so that there are good jobs across the country, including in my colleague's riding. Merry Christmas to everyone. The Honourable Member for Lévis-Lotbinière. Mr. Speaker, out in the real world, food costs have exploded. This week I heard from Ms. Ouellette that she is spending more on groceries than on her mortgage. Ms. Vallée told me that she has given up meat in order to keep within her budget. And Mr. Hardy said that people are eating chips and soda pop for dinner so that they can make rent. Mr. Speaker, when will the Prime Minister come down off his ivory tower and finally acknowledge what Canadian families are going through? The Honourable Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I can see that the Conservatives are making up imaginary taxes quicker than they're making up question period questions because they ask the same thing every day. You know what's not imaginary? The Canada Child Benefit, which has reduced child poverty by 40%. The dental benefit, which 1.5 million Quebecers have signed up to. The National School Food Program, which has fed 100,000 of the most vulnerable Quebecers. Jobs are on the rise. That makes opportunity for all Canadians and all Quebecers from all over the country. The Honourable Member for Côte-du-Sud, Rivière-du-Loup, Kataskamik-Témiscouata. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister said that he could be judged by the cost of groceries. Well, now Canadians are judging him. Groceries are twice as expensive as they were 10 years ago, and the most recent food price report said that the price will go up another $1,000 next year for a family of 4. Today, families told me that they have to choose between milk and fruit. Some are skipping meals so that they could make it to the end of the week. In a country like Canada, that makes no sense. Will the Liberals get rid of their inflationary spending and their hidden food taxes so that Canadians can finally afford to eat? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Prime Minister. These are crocodile tears coming from the Conservatives. They say that Canadians are having trouble making ends meet, yet they are voting against Canadians' interests. We index the Canada Child Benefit to inflation. The Conservatives don't like that, and they voted against it. We put in place a dental care program for our young people and for seniors who are struggling. Conservatives voted against that. They're against that program. Why? Because it helps Canadians. Let's be honest. Conservatives do not have the interests of Canadians at heart.
Member for Halifax.
Mr. Speaker, during the campaign, I knocked on thousands of doors all over Halifax. I constantly heard the same concerns about access to health care. My constituents know that the federal government can and must be part of the solution to the problems in our health care system. Could the Minister of Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship inform this House about how our government is contributing to this essential mission? Thank you. The Honourable Minister of Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I would like to thank my colleague for that question. On Monday, as part of our international talent recruitment strategy, I announced new measures to 1. Rapidly bring over doctors, specialists, and surgeons who are ready to practice in Canada, and 2. Retain foreign doctors who are already taking care of patients in our communities. Thanks to this plan, our government will build a more robust healthcare system, one that can benefit all Canadians. Thank you.
For Dufferin-Caledon.
For months, Conservatives fought to get the Stellantis contracts released despite the gag order from the Liberals, and now we know why they wanted to hide it. The so-called jobs guarantee that the minister was bragging about in question period only a few weeks ago was for 4,400 full-time employees at Stellantis. Sounds okay, right? Except Stellantis had 8,000 employees at the time the contract was signed. That would allow them to lay off 3,500 workers and still get the money. Is that why they fired 3,000 auto workers in Brampton, took the cash, and sent the jobs to Donald Trump?
The Honourable Minister of Industry.
We are with our workers in the auto sector that are victims of the unjustified and unjustifiable American tariffs, and will continue to fight for their jobs. When it comes to Stellantis, we had a deal, they broke it, we'll go after the money.
Member for Dufferin-Caledon.
You want to know what's unjustifiable? What's unjustifiable is giving a multinational company $15 billion and getting a job guarantee in the contract that allows the company to fire almost 50% of its workers. Let that sink in. They gave them $15 billion. They were allowed to fire 3,500 workers in Canada and still be in compliance with the contract. My question is this. This is gross negligence. It is incompetence beyond incompetence. How the hell has someone not been fired?
Again, we have pretty much unlimited freedom of expression in this House, but there are some words that provoke a reaction, even if they're not technically unparliamentary on the list.
The Honourable Minister of Industry.
What's gross negligence? It's when these conservatives under Harper decided to do a deal to bail out GM and Chrysler and shook hands with these two giants. And you know what happened? 2 Ford plants closed, GM plant closed, and an Orient bus closed. We have no lessons to take from them. Right. We were the first government to bring jobs back to the auto sector, 3,000 right now.
That's it.
Windsor at the Next Star facility, and we'll make sure that we get our money back from Stellantis.
Yes. Honourable Member for Carlton Trail Eagle Creek.
When the Liberal government was asked about its $1 billion subsidy deal with Stellantis, the minister said to read the contracts and we would see job guarantees. Well, after her officials lied and were forced to release the documents, we see exactly what the Liberals got in return for Canadians' money. And I quote, "No penalties against the recipient should their aspirational target not be met." Why did the minister hand out hundreds of millions of dollars without any guarantee from Stellantis that jobs would be created?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Rural Development.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. The minister has answered that question twice already. But I'm not a mathematician, nor am I an economist. But when you talk about investments, I calculate that the Saskatchewan Conservative MPs that we have sent there, the 14 Saskatchewan Conservative MPs that we have sent to Ottawa over the last 10 years, cost us $30,800,000, Mr. Speaker. No return on investment. People of Saskatchewan deserve better. But anyway, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
The Honourable Member for Compton-Stanstead. Mr. Speaker, earlier this week, the Prime Minister announced that Canada will apply to host the Summit of la Francophonie in 2028. This is excellent news. That is a major event bringing together French-speaking countries from all over the world, and which leads to important economic and cultural benefits. I would like could the Minister of Foreign Affairs tell us a little bit more about this application and what we are doing to strengthen our ties with other French-speaking countries? The Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs. Mr. Speaker.
Oh, good.
The French language and Francophone culture are extremely important. They are at the heart of our Canadian identity. That is why this week we announced that we will be applying to host the Summit of la Francophonie in 2028 here in the National Capital Region. This will let us forge new economic partnerships for Canadians. Mr. Speaker, this is good news for the economy, for the Francophone world.
For Pinoka Didsbury.
Speaker, I've just returned from Prince Edward Island, where all 10 Charlottetown City Councillors were present and voted unanimously to reject this Liberal government's gun grab. The 10 city councillors in Charlottetown clearly know better than the 4 Liberal MPs from that island. They know that lawful gun owners are not the problem. They know that their police resources are already stretched thin. They know the real problem is violent crime and with illegal guns from the United States. Charlottetown doesn't want anything to do with this Liberal government's policy. Even the minister himself has admitted it's a failure. When will the Liberals abandon this ineffective, useless $750 million boondoggle?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, let me be very clear. Mr. Speaker, we will be moving forward with the national program to ensure that those gun owners who are lawful gun owners are able to get compensation for those prohibited weapons. 2,500 weapons we prohibited under the Firearms Act. We will be compensating them, Mr. Speaker. But my question to the opposition is, why do they continuously go against law enforcement? For example, on lawful access, why do they continuously vote against and stall legislation that's going to help the people of Canada, Mr. Speaker?
The Honourable Member for Rosemont-La Petite Patrie. Soon, families will be getting together for Christmas dinner. And what will be the discussion around the table? Disappointment in this Liberal government. Not only have they done nothing to bring down grocery or housing costs, but everyone knows that they have given up the fight against climate change. To quote the former Environment Minister, it will now be impossible for Canada to meet its climate targets. This government is driving us off a cliff. They have let down future generations. Our young people will inherit an unpredictable climate and a burning planet. Will the Liberals apologize to our children? The Honourable Minister for the Environment and Climate Change, Mr. Speaker, I have said it once, I will say it again. Our government is committed to continue the fight against climate change. What is more, if you look at what we're hearing from the Conservatives, you will understand what it means to have one party in the House that does not understand what it means to fight against climate change. We are doing our jobs. We will continue to put in the work, and I hope that my colleague will support our climate plan.
The Honourable Member for Caribou Prince George has a point of order.
There have been discussions among the different parties. Mr. Speaker, I believe if you seek it, you will find unanimous consent.
Well, there's none. The Honourable Member for St. Thomas, Elgin, London South, is it?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As members of the House are aware, we open our days with prayer each day, and I'm hoping you can rule on whether members will be protected by parliamentary privilege from prosecution should C9 pass.
Hear, hear.
I can't even hear what the member said, to be honest. So maybe, if the member could repeat what he said, I couldn't hear it, unfortunately. To avoid having the member repeat it a third time, maybe we could have a little more silence across the room. The Honourable Member for St. Thomas, Elgin, London South.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As members are aware, we open our days in prayer each day, which is a testament to the spiritual roots of this country. I'm just wondering if you can rule on whether our parliamentary privilege will protect us from prosecution if Bill C9 becomes law.
The Honourable Government House Leader.
On the same point of order, Mr. Speaker, it is absolutely absurd and outrageous to suggest that this Parliament would act to constrain the rights and the privileges of Canadians to prayer, to choose their faith, and to practice their religion in any way possible, Mr. Speaker.
I don't see it being a problem. I don't see it being a problem. Any more points of order before we continue? The Honourable Government House Leader.
Late in question period, the member from Saskatchewan suggested that public servants had misled or lied to a committee. I think that is something that you should review, Mr. Speaker.
A point of order. I don't see that as a point of order, but are there any more points of order? No? Okay. We'll go to Dave.
You should do exercises. That's important to our good health. And friends, tomorrow we are going to be visiting with a fisherman who will tell us about his very enjoyable hobby. Now, I would like to see you all through our magic mirror. Romper, bumper, stomper, boo, tell me, do. Magic mirror, please tell me today, did all of my friends have fun at play? I see all of my friends in Alberta. It's nice to see you. And I see Dan and Vivian. I see Marlon and Mona. I see Catherine and Harley. I see Anne and Elizabeth and Jane. I see Bert and Nicole, and I see you too. I hope to see you tomorrow, right here in Romp Room.
Ding dong, knock knock, hey daddy do. Bing bong, tick tock, bebop boom.
Kick off your weekend with exciting CFL action when the Edmonton Eskimos tackle the BC Lions in Vancouver. Tomorrow night at 10:30 on CFTO TV.
Ding dong, knock knock, hey daddy do. Tip tap, pitter pat, break at two. Root it toot, kimble, loopy loo. Bobbity zobbity, bosser boom. Rock, roll, and friends.
Let the doors be open, they won't ouvre les portes. Thank you very much.
So, hi everyone, good morning.
Statements by members, déclaration des députés.
It's time for a change.